Welcome to the Monday Monologue. Well, if I haven't posted it yet, we've got another video coming on our 6C33C. And man, that giant tube looks so cool. And we're going to get back on this. I want to try to get this thing finished this month, because I've got some other projects that I want to work on. If you haven't seen the earlier video, I've put a kind of a hiatus on doing any more production amps until the first of the year. I've actually got 2 people that want one right now, and giving up $5,000 in sales so I can get back to doing some of these projects that you guys are begging for to get done on the channel. And I know I've had to kind of temper or balance the building amps for folks for my new company, and then doing content for the channel and DIY kind of amplifier stuff. And I had a couple of people make little comments like, well, you need to change the name of the channel to Skunkie Reviews Electronics and not Skunkie Designs Electronics, because you're not obviously building anything anymore. It's like, man, guys, I built some stuff earlier this year. But anyway, we're going to focus on building amps this fall. We're going to finish this up. I've got a ultralinear acro sound. I think they're TO310 transformers to build a 6V6. We're going to use that Hafler 1950s schematic, just straight up. See what that thing sounds like. I've also got KT88 Monoblocks we're going to be working on. Fixed bias, high voltage. Going to be using some Thermionic Labs output transformers. They custom made for me for that. But I'm trying to balance that with doing some of this lower budget or lower cost Class D stuff, because not everybody can build something like this. And when I go to sell these are not going to be cheap. I mean, look at all this iron. That was not cheap. These tube sockets were almost impossible to find. These are the really good silver contact Russian ones. And the development and everything that goes into making this work. If y'all want to DIY build them, that's fine. But, to pair these, I'd have to sit down and see how much money I've got in them. And, to even DIY build like a 300B amp, you're going to spend probably easily $1,200. And a lot of people just don't have that kind of money to build a balanced system. And I think that's important, that you spend money on things like good speakers. And that's one reason I've been doing all these different speaker reviews, is up until now I've just been using kind of these budget RP600M speakers, and we've been building these kind of budget amps. But I've started venturing into higher spec components in other parts of my system, but I haven't upgraded the speakers. And that I found was a mistake. Now I can really hear the difference in that, it was a $1,000 phono cartridge with a step-up transformer to go to a moving coil. Now I can hear the difference in it. And before, I was like, man, this didn't make a whole lot of difference. Well, it does if you got speakers that resolve enough to hear it. And so, but there is a balance to the whole thing. Let's say you got a $3,000 budget. You don't want to spend $2,500 of it on an amplifier where you have to go buy a $150 turntable to go with it and use some super crappy phono stage that's built inside it because you spent all your money on buying a nice tube amp. And then you have to buy $200 speakers or go to a yard sale to get speakers. That's not the way this all needs to work. And after listening to that AIMA A70 with the Sparkos op amps, I mean, out of the box, it's just kind of meh. After I put those Sparkos op amps in it, it became a contender for a real audiophile amplifier. And so I get people emailing me, what's the best, $500 and under tube amp? It's like the best 500 and less tube amp is a AIMA A70 with a couple of Sparkos op amps in it, because there's not a tube amp that sounds good out of the box. And like an A12 Modifieds a decent little tube amp. But you got to be able to modify it, and you got to be able to have the skills to, get this guy out and solder stuff, move wires around, and you wouldn't believe how many emails I got when people try to do, and that's a pretty simple mod. You're just converting it from a parallel triode driver to a single triode driver, and you're adding, a resistor and changing a cathode resistor, and people just get lost doing that and basically brick them. And then they want to send them to me, and it's like, dude, if you want to pay the shipping and stuff and send it to me, I can fix it, but, it's going to be, you're going to end up spending close to what the amp costs to have me do all this stuff. And, figure out what you've done wrong if you haven't fried the output transformers. And so, there needs to be other options. That's why I've been reviewing some of this stuff, is trying to find a balance of just tunnel focused on tube amps and being able to help people get honest opinions about the rest of the system. And I do feel like that there's a lack of people that I can trust. I mean, when I went to go buy speakers, I bought one pair of speakers based on a bunch of reviews that I saw, and when I listened to the speakers, I was like, what are they talking about? And so there's a lot of hyped up stuff out there for affiliate links, and I don't even know what to trust. So you don't either. And so that's one of the reasons we're going to be looking at this A70 mono. They sent me a pair of these. I got the Fozzy V3 monos. And I want to compare, these to those. And then the folks at Burson Audio sent me a pair of their V7 op amps. And I want to compare those to the Sparkos. And that'll work good because each one of these uses 2 op amps. Put a pair of the Sparkos in one of these, put a pair of the Burson in the other, and then I can listen to the back and forth channels and see which one, see what the difference is between them. And then I can help you guys figure out which of this stuff is hype and which of it is like legit good audio. And where it fits in kind of the spectrum of audiophile gear. And like I just did that little Angel's Horn turntable. And yeah, it's good for listening with some Bluetooth speakers and kind of dorm room audio. And there's nothing wrong with being down at that price point. But some of the stuff that's being touted as being a giant killer, it just isn't. And again, people are just hyping this stuff up for affiliate links, and they're cashing out and you're losing out. And that's why I've kind of jumped into doing more than just this. And yes, we're still Skunkie Designs Electronics. I'm still probably one of the few YouTube reviewers that can actually build audio gear. So hopefully that means something when I'm reviewing stuff, that I'm doing it from a place of maybe not understanding the solid state electronics, but I at least know what I'm listening to, and I know that I've got something. Well, I don't know what this sounds like yet until I finish it, but I know I've got a good sounding 300B amp, and I know that EL34 amp sounds good because I've sold those, especially those EL34 amps. I've sold those to people who are picky listeners that have some really high-end gear, and they email me back and says, man, your amp sounds fantastic. So I know that amp sounds good, and so it gives me a floor to listen to, and you're not getting folks that are, on one hand they're comparing an R300, which I've shown all the problems that it has, that they say is the amp of the year, and then they turn around and say, well, this is the amp of the year. So like, how do you have any faith in that? And I've definitely called out stuff for what it is. And hopefully I've been able to not just say, this is total junk, but like, this is where it fits in the audiophile spectrum, and this is what your expectations should be, unless it is junk that just eats rectifier tubes and blows fuses and it's got all kinds of design issues that are unfixable. And I'll call that out too. And so, yeah, that's where this channel I feel like needs to be. And I know at the start, this is all we were doing, was designing and building tube amps, but there's more to a stereo system than that. And, you know, I could show y'all the views when I do stuff like the reel-to-reel content. You know, I know some of y'all may not be interested in that, but clearly there's some people that are. And that was one of my better viewed videos in the last month or so. And so these actually build videos are some of the worst performing videos. I get more views on this Monday monologue than I will on building this amp. But I enjoy doing this stuff. So again, you folks that are wanting EL34 amps are going to have to wait till January. That's when I'm planning on starting production back up for next year. And then I may just set a number. I'm going to build 10 of these for the year, and then that's it. And just kind of limit production on them so that I can get other stuff done. I really want to play with those Acrosound ultralinear transformers. I'm trying to get a pair of the higher powered versions that work with KT66 tubes. I've got a pair of I've actually got a quad of Treasure KT66 tubes upstairs that I was planning on building a push-pull amp with. I still want to play with balanced audio and push-pull amps. That's another thing that I want to dive into, with maybe using shade feedback instead of global to try to get around some of the issues with using a balanced input. And yeah, there's just a lot of stuff I want to do. But I also feel like that it's important to keep the whole system as a whole in. So for the music today, I was going to recommend some vinyl, but the vinyl is actually not very good, which is disappointing. And I think it's Clario Sling. Somebody recommended it last week, and I listened to just a little snippet of it. I don't like spoiling, you know, and I listened to about 30 seconds of it. It's like, yeah, that sounds fun. So I ordered the vinyl. It was expensive. It was about $40. And man, it's got a ton of surface noise. It's got a bunch of clicks and pops. And it's not like just cleaning. I mean, it sounds like a 20-year-old vinyl that wasn't stored well. It's just very disappointing that they would put out that kind of quality for that price. But they may be just kind of hitting the hipster market with the vinyl. And they're like, hey, we got people wanting vinyl. Just throw something out there. Seems like a lot of the more modern type music that gets put on vinyl with new artists is like that. I will say that Hugo Kant with his vinyl, whoever he's using, sounds sublime. And I mean, it sounds so much better than the streaming. And it's so clean. And so, they're not all doing that. But this sounds like a CD burned onto a vinyl just to get it out the door. So, I'm going to return that. I may try the CD and then rip the CD onto a thumb drive and see if that sounds better than the vinyl. I've had some people commenting about that, but I don't know. Maybe that just isn't mastered very well or something's going on. I don't know what. Streaming sounds pretty decent, but it's still not super crisp. But I'll put the link below. Again, not going to do affiliate links on that stuff because that's not something I super recommend yet. And you're kind of on your own. Listen to it on Tidal. They've got it streaming so you can listen to it. It's kind of interesting music. It's very different. So maybe that's something y'all can enjoy. And I did want to share one other thing with you that was a bummer. I was really excited about this. I found this pair of H.H. Scott Monoblocks on eBay. And one of them doesn't work, and it sounded like possibly it might have a bad output transformer, because he said there was like 300 volts on the speaker jack, which sounds like a shorted output transformer. Whatever. But anyway, they looked really cool. And I thought, you know, in the future I can like keep hunting and maybe find a really raggedy one of these that's got a good output transformer or something. And they wanted $500 for them, which isn't cheap, but sounded like to me a decent deal for what they were. They're pretty rare. You don't see them very often. And so hit buy it now on September 1st. Well, the eBay seller didn't hit the print the shipping label until 4 days after when I was supposed to get them. He didn't get the shipping label till the 11th. So it took him 10 days just to print the shipping label. And then I emailed him, said, hey, what's going on? After about 2 weeks. And normally I would just be like, file a thing with eBay, give me my money back. But I thought, these are pretty cool. They're pretty rare. I'm going to be patient. And sent 3 messages that got unreturned. And then at the end of this month, like on the 25th or so, I finally sent him a, hey dude, this is like getting ridiculous. It's almost 4 weeks and you haven't shipped them. You won't respond to my emails. I don't want to get into some, negative feedback dealing with eBay and, all that stuff. Can you just email me back? Tell me what's going on? Well, he tells me his dad was his main shipping partner, and then he had quadruple bypass surgery, and that he's having issues, but he said they're all boxed up, and I'll get them in the mail to you tomorrow. Well, 5 days later, still not shipped. And I was going to give him a little more time, and I was like, I'm sorry, this is ridiculous. This just is not worth it. And I know if you wait too long, then you don't have any recourse with eBay. So I filed a thing with eBay to, I want my money back. And I don't do this. I think I've done it twice since like 1995 that I've been on eBay. I gave him negative feedback and just wrote, this guy just is not going to ship your stuff. And reading through his feedback, there's a whole bunch of people that he does the same thing to. And then I did a thing on a forum talking about this, and then somebody else says, oh yeah, I bought something for that guy 6 months ago, and he gave me the same story about his dad having bypass surgery. And so, yeah, sadly, we're not going to be doing those. And so that would have been a cool project for the channel. But again, we're going to do these acro sound things. It'll be fun. But just buyer beware on eBay. I shouldn't have gotten excited about what these amps were. And I should have looked at the guy's feedback closer and just restrained from buying them, even though they're pretty cool. So I think that's a good place to wrap up this Monday monologue. Thanks to you Patreon supporters. Thanks to all you folks that subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate your support. Thanks to you regular viewers. It means a lot that y'all enjoy watching these Monday monologues, and that's why I keep making them. So until next week, we'll see you for the next Monday monologue.